Yo, how's it going everybody? It's me, Arctic. In today's video, we're going to be going over a complete Yelan weapons guide, talking about the best weapon choice for her, and what weapons to kind of avoid, and what weapons are going to be her best in slot choices. There's a few things that we have to keep in mind when we're actually choosing a weapon for Yelan, one of those being that she actually ascends with crit rate as her ascension stat, so she's going to be getting 24% crit rate, so that's pretty good right there. Another thing we have to keep in mind is that basically all of her damage is centered around HP. So the more HP you have on Yelan, the more damage she's going to do. But you're also going to want to balance that with crit stats. Crit damage is definitely going to be a pretty big factor to have as well. Attack percent is not going to matter whatsoever on her, even though she does have a 244 base attack. Attack percent isn't going to matter because the only damage you're going to get out of that is if you're using her non-empowered charge attacks. She does have a special charge attack that basically scales with HP, so she's honestly a very, very unique character. So starting off with the stringless, I think stringless is actually going to be a relatively solid option for Yelan, considering that she doesn't necessarily need attack percent substats, and elemental mastery is going to be a good stat to have on her, especially since she is a very readily available hydro applicator. She's going to be very good with characters like Hu Tao or other pyro supports, that kind of stuff. So definitely don't sleep on the elemental mastery right here. But then the passive also increases your elemental skill and elemental burst damage by 24%, which is where most of Yelan's damage comes from. Once again, she does get that special charge attack after 5 seconds of being off the field. So honestly, she's going to have some pretty good rotations and pretty good DPS rotations, but the elemental skill and elemental burst damage increase from stringless is going to be a very, very valuable. Sacrificial bow is going to be an extremely good option on Yelan because she does actually center around her elemental skill usage quite a bit with her kit, basically using that to get damage and marking enemies. So that's going to be really good. The passive on this is going to actually reset your elemental skill cooldown, so it's honestly kind of like a Yelan C2 a little bit in a way. It can give you 2 charges for elemental skill, which will be really good for energy economy. Plus this also comes with energy recharge as its ascension stat, so you're going to definitely be able to have your burst up, which is what you want with Yelan. The Viridescent Hunt is the Battle Pass bow, and I think this is actually going to be one of the better options, I would say, because whenever you hit with a normal or aim shot, they have a 50% chance to generate a Cyclone. So Yelan's special charge attack is actually going to be able to cause that, and this is actually going to draw in enemies a bit and deal attack as damage. So even if you do have some attack percent or some attack stats on your Yelan, she's still going to have a relatively decent amount of attack. So this ability will proc and give you some extra damage right there. But then it also has crit rate as ascension up to 27%, so you're going to be sitting at around 50 to 60% on your crit rate just by using this weapon and Yelan's crit rate ascension. So definitely a very highly recommended weapon. Getting into the 5-star options, the Skyward Harp is going to be an okay option to use just because it does have that extra crit rate on its ascension stat, but it does have a very high base attack, so you're really trading that base attack for the ascension stat, so the ascension stat is a bit low. But then the passive on here, it increases your crit damage by 20%, so not too bad of a passive right here. But then also has a 60% chance to inflict a small attack AoE, dealing 125% of physical attack as damage. And that can only occur once every 4 seconds. So once again, like I was saying with the Viridescent Hunt bow, this is actually going to give you a little bit more damage, but it's not going to be that crazy versus a character that mainly focuses on having a large amount of attack. The Amos bow, I don't really recommend this weapon for Yelan, even though she does focus around charge attack damage. Just the trade-off between having an attack percent stat, which is actually useless on Yelan because she's not actually going to be able to do damage with her attack based on her attack. It's literally all based on her HP. On this, it's not really going to be that worth it versus just running a crit damage stat weapon, something like that, with a better passive. LG for the End is probably one of the better weapons that we're actually looking at for support Yelan, or just in general Yelan gameplay. This passive on this basically gives you some extra elemental mastery, and your party gives them extra attack. So it's honestly very good, especially if you are running a reaction team. This is definitely going to boost it up. And I think since Yelan has multiple triggering with her elemental skill, I think that's actually going to be able to proc this Millennial Movement buff pretty reliably. I would say depending on how many enemies you're fighting. If you're fighting one enemy, it's going to be hard as always, even with using other characters and whatnot. But I think you're going to be able to use this pretty good, especially if you're hitting 2 or 3 enemies, you know. But then it does have a good amount of energy recharge as a substat, which is actually very, very valuable on Yelan because it's good for either the emblem build, which is like a sub DPS build, but it's just generally good because having her burst up basically gives you an extra chance to basically reset the cooldown of her special charge attack. So she can potentially work as an on-field, but you want to have her burst up, which this really helps with that. Thundering Pulse is a weapon that I would honestly actually really recommend, and the reason why I say that is because its passive isn't going to help you out at all really, because that just gives you extra attack and like normal attack damage. It doesn't give you any charge attack damage, which is a little bit sad, but it does have a large amount of crit damage, up to 66%, so this is honestly probably one of the highest crit damage weapons that we actually have in the game right now. But I think Yelan's specific weapon is probably going to outclass this just because its passive is going to factor into Yelan's kit a lot more. But this is still like a discount version of her like specifically tailored weapon. Polar Star is another great weapon that is honestly going to be really, really good on Yelan. It's passive right here, elemental skill, elemental burst damage increased by 12%. After a normal attack, charge attack, elemental skill, or elemental burst hits an opponent, you gain one of these stacks, which increases your attack by a certain amount. That doesn't really matter too much. You can pretty much ignore this for the most part, other than that like little like extra like elemental skill, elemental burst damage boost increase. So that's really nice. But then it also gets a good amount of crit rate on this ascension, so you're going to be sitting at like 60 to 70-ish% crit rate just by having this weapon and Yelan's ascension. And then for Yelan's specific weapon, I think this is called like the chilean bow or something like that. I forget what it's exactly called. But what this does is it gives you HP increased by 16%, and when opponents are near the character equipping this weapon, the damage the character deals is increased by 20%. So 20% damage bonus increase when there is like opponents near the character. Yeah, that's going to be really, really good. And also it actually works when the character's off field too, so very good for like sub DPS and whatnot. But then the ascension on this, it goes with 542 base attack, and then it has an 88% crit damage substat right here. So definitely the highest amount of crit damage you're going to be getting, and this is definitely the best in slot weapon for Yelan, especially because she does center around HP as her main damage source. But yeah, that's basically it for the weapons guide. Let me know if you guys liked it down in the comments section below, and expect some more Yelan videos. I think I'm going to do a little bit more like damage calculations for Yelan. Once we actually get a little bit more solid numbers, depending on if her kit gets like tweaked within the upcoming weeks of the beta. But yeah, this weapon guide should be solid even if she does change with her initial like multipliers and stuff. I basically made it very, very generalized for you guys. But anyway, it's been me, Arctic. We'll see you guys in the next one. Farewell.